There's a memorial service for a friend of mine today in New York at 3 o'clock. And anyway, it was too complicated, and I couldn't go because of the weather. And I wanted to see Bobby Seale. And I had a class. So I decided to ask Jim, and Jim will reveal why this is particularly pertinent and relevant, that he does the Q&A. And then I just, when I wasn't going to come, then I decided that I could come. And we decided to keep with that same second format. So I'm honored to be here. Why is it, and Jim will do the proper introductions, but why is it such a moving moment for me? Because I was in Calhoun College at Yale. Everybody knows I'm a Yalie. I was in John C. Calhoun College. And this is not a story about the name John C. Calhoun or his terribly racist attitudes. It's about its proximity to the New Haven courthouse. I was right on the corner of College and Elm when he was on trial 200 yards away every day. And we followed his court case. He was arrested on trumped-up charges. And that was my sophomore year at Yale, between 1969 and 1970. I was elected the secretary of the Black Student Alliance at Yale. So I wasn't the leader. I was a little mousy kid, just writing down notes. But I was part of the basically executive committee to organize a strike, or to try to do something impossible, which was to get Yale to go on strike in the middle of April for the treatment by the FBI of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. And, the chance of pulling this off are 1 in a million, right? Yale, go on strike for Black Panthers. But I was telling a friend of mine from Morocco, I said, "You ever hear Bobby Seale?" He said, "No." And we were coming down the street, and I go, "Well, he was the leader of this revolutionary party in the late 60s. And he said, "What was the reaction of the government?" I said, "Well, there's a guy named J. Edgar Hoover who decided he was going to kill them all. And the reason Bobby didn't get killed was that he was in prison." But basically, the FBI declared war on the Black Panthers. And the president of Yale, if you can imagine this, Kingman Brewster, will always be remembered for words which got him fired. The following words, which was, he was skeptical of the ability of a black revolutionary to get a fair trial in the United States. It's an amazing thing to say. And in the middle of April, each of the 12 colleges at Yale voted. We had a big rally. David Hilliard was the acting head of the party. And David was in jail. He was in prison for disrupting the court case. And they let him out. Charles Gary was his legendary, I hadn't even thought about this stuff till right now. Charles Gary was the famous attorney, and William Kunstler. And we had this rally at Ingalls Rink, which is the ice hockey rink. And we didn't know David Hilliard was going to be out. It was the night we were having the rally. Then we were going to go back to the 12 colleges and then have a vote, 12 different votes, whether to go on strike for the Black Panthers. And we looked up, we heard this noise, we looked up, and there was David Hilliard coming. He'd been let out, and he addressed the crowd, and the whole place went nuts. 3,000 people went totally crazy. And then we went back to the colleges, including me at Calhoun. And as Frederick Douglass said, he rose and found his voice. I'd never spoken to anybody at Yale that, in a public way like that, and I addressed the kids at my college. We had 12 votes, and we won. And the next day, we went on strike for the right of Bobby Seale and the Black Panthers to get a fair trial in the United States. And 2 weeks later, everybody else in America went on strike because Nixon and Kissinger invaded Cambodia illegally. And then it was Kent State and Jackson State. Everybody remembers Kent State, but they don't remember that there were black kids killed down at Jackson State at the same time. And then on May 1st, we had this huge rally with, I don't know how many people came to the New Haven Green to protest the war and to support the Panthers. And despite the fact that I live so close to the New Haven courthouse, I've never had the privilege or the pleasure of meeting Bobby Seale, which is why I extended the offer for him to come. And I'm honored to be here. I'm glad you stood up for the principles that you stood up for, and that you spoke truth to power, and you kept the faith, brother. And they tried to kill you, and it's a great thing. Not here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Wolf. I'm the executive director of the Hutchins Center, and I suspect I'm the last person you want to see up here right now because we have these two to engage in conversation. But I just wanted to welcome Bobby Seale and also thank Jim Sedanius for doing this for us and for really bringing a unique perspective to this conversation. If you were able to read the flyer or the program that came out, you'll know that Professor Sedanius is a professor of psychology and African American studies here at Harvard and has his own pretty fascinating history that I just learned about recently, and I'm happy to share it with you. He brings what we're calling a frontline perspective to this conversation. Professor Gates talked about one frontline as being at Yale. Professor Sedanius is now a scholar of racism, social hierarchies, and social organizations, and this stems from his experience as an activist in the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, and the Black Power movements of the 1960s. Though he was not himself, as I understand it, a member of the Black Panther Party, he was engaged in the work that they were doing as well, with different organizations. And I think I checked to make sure this was the public record, and indeed it is. But he left the U.S. in 1970, at which time he renounced his citizenship here as a result of the work he was doing and what he was seeing and had come to believe. And he became a Swedish citizen. He returned to this country in 1984, excuse me, as a Swedish national with permanent residency here. And his work on race has continued to be informed by what he saw and experienced at that time in the 60s. So Bobby Seale, I think we all know, is the co-founder of the Black Panther Party. And I don't want to say too much. I think all else will be revealed right now. So thank you so much for being here. We're thrilled to have you all here today. And we look forward to the conversation. So thank you very much.
Well, first of all, Bobby, I'd like to personally welcome you. I think it's an honor to meet you after all of these years following what's been happening with you and the Black Panther Party, to finally get a chance to meet you in the flesh. 50 years ago and 4 months, starting tomorrow, you and a person called U.E.P. Newton started the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. And I have a 3-part question for you to start. What inspired you to start this organization? What were the goals you wanted to achieve? And to what degree do you think you've succeeded in achieving these goals?
Starting the Black Panther Party. Actually, you have to start with how I got into the protest movement in the first place. Now, I was a young man who was a very lucky young man to have been raised up with a lot of skills and trades, particularly building and construction. My father was a master carpenter and builder. My grandfather was a master carpenter and builder, him and his brother. We were from Jasper, Texas, as my people. My mother and father were both born in a county and town area of Jasper, Texas, East Texas, near the Louisiana border, what have you. We come with the Seale family from the Seale plantation. There was a Seale plantation where my people come from. Josh, once Juneteenth Emancipation Proclamation said that they were free, a year later, I got a hold of enough money, and he bought 50 acres of land next door to the Seale plantation. And of course, Grandma Winnie, I met her, and she was 105 years old when she died, but my point is that she went to work after the Emancipation Proclamation for the Seale family. The Seale family were also the bankers in Jasper, Texas, you know. And my grandfather, well, she married Peter. Peter later went to work for the Seale family, and then a year later they got married. And when coming out of slavery, they just kept the name Seale. So that's where the Seale family comes from in terms of us from following Emancipation Proclamation. These guys were carpenters and builders. In effect, as my grandfather grew up to be a grown man, and the banking framework loaning money to build houses and stuff, I think some shale mining was getting ready to go on in a little town called Weirgate, Texas, not far from the Louisiana border. In effect, because of the Seale family and our connection with them, my grandfather got the contract to build the 500 houses and work the people in segregated work. You know, over here was the whites working and over here was the blacks working, that kind of stuff. So by the time I'm 15 years of age, you have to understand I'm an architect. I'm doing architectural lot plots and three-dimensional structural design for adding rooms and dens to houses in Berkeley and Oakland, Orinda, California for my father. And he and his contracting buddy would put their names on the plans, et cetera. But all this stuff passed license inspection and stuff. That's where I come from. So by the time I go to the United States Air Force, structural repair, high-performance aircraft, tech school, master that whole framework, you know, I mean, I had mastered to a top skill level by the time I was a corporal. I had to wait some months before they would make me a buck sergeant or something. But my point is, I was high tech, and after I come out of the Air Force, I worked for aircraft companies. And then I wound up working on the Gemini missile program, a NASA project with Kaiser Aerospace and Electronics in Oakland, California. And I worked the engineering department there. You know, so when I say high tech, you know, electromagnetic field, black light, non-destruct testing for all engine frames with the Gemini missile program, all 3 stages of exhaust housing for the Gemini program, xylo processing, non-destruct testing, what have you, et cetera. This is where I was at. And then I began to read. I read a book called Jomo Kenyatta Facing Mount Kenya. And it was all behind the new Afro-American Association rolling around Berkeley and this stuff. But I got a hold of that book and found out that Tarzan didn't run Africa. You know? I mean, I was growing up, you know, I was good in math and all this kind of stuff, but I knew nothing about my African-American people's history at this time. You know, you have to remember, this is the early 1960s and stuff, and I didn't know that what was going on, but that was important to me to learn that this man, Jomo Kenyatta, you know, came to England and America, got degrees, was an anthropologist, what have you, et cetera, but became significant in organizing his people out from under the yoke of English colonialism over Kenya. This was important. And then I'm studying Africa and beginning to understand the colonialization process. Simultaneously, I'm researching my African and African-American people's history in America, what have you, and so on. Dr. King came to speak. You know, I still got my job at night, you know, and I'm at Merritt College, which is a community college, and I have an engineering design major, and Dr. King came to speak at Oakland Auditorium, and with him speaking, you know, the idea that I went to hear him speak had to do with some of my growing up history. And I had stopped going to the churches to hear hell and damnation over and over and over. You know what I mean? I ain't got time for all that. But my point is that Dr. King was doing something else. I knew that. And I said, I'm going to go hear this brother speak and see what's happening. And there he was, Oakland Auditorium, 7,000 seats, every seat filled. I'm just one person, one individual. Dr. King is railing about how all these companies across America discriminate and won't hire people of color. And then he mentioned various companies and what they do and didn't do. And then he got on the bread companies in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area. And Dr. King says, and here in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area, Langendorf Bread Company and Kilpatrick's Bread Company would not hire any people of color. He says, and all across America, He would not, Wonder Bread Company would not hire any people of color. I say we're going to have to boycott them, and we want to boycott them so consistently and so profoundly, we want to make Wonder Bread wonder where the money went. Dr. King, that upset that, or when I say upset, a standing ovation just in the middle of this brother's speech. And man, and I'm one person, and I'm truly inspired by this brother. I'm truly inspired by Dr. King, really first, before Malcolm X or any, boom. And the next person I'm really inspired by is really, in 1963, is Nelson Mandela. You know, in South Africa, I'm learning this. You know, I'm studying Africa, and I'm seeing the colonialism of Africa. And I get beyond the aesthetics, you know what I mean, as to whether or not you wear a dashiki or something. I'm looking at the economics of what's going on. And really, it blows my mind. You know, I'm metallurgical knowledge and stuff like this through the United States Air Force, tech schools, what have you, and so on, and all that kind of, boom, you know. And I'm saying, wow, they got cobalt, you know, and they got gold in the bowels of the earth there, and they got copper ore. And I had even get a little speech there at Merritt College there about the Southern Katanga province there. They had a big fight over that. And it was all about 1/3 of the world's copper ore was being produced out of the Southern Katanga province of Leopoldville, Congo at the time. I mean, this is the stuff that excited me. I says, wow, this, boom. And then something came up, and I found out that in Western Africa, in Ghana in particular, they had built a smelting plant for what? Bauxite. I says, bauxite? Well, I had said that I remember Huey and them saying, what you mean bauxite? I says, bauxite. I said, oh, you shit. I said, Africans should be richest people around in the world. What's that guy? I say, bauxite is the basic ore for all aluminum products produced in the world. I say, imagine all the pots and pans and the aircraft and stuff. I says, and this is why I got stuck and understood the reason for the colonialization of Africa was manifested in the mineral resources in the bowels of the earth in Africa. This is where it was at. And that's where I hung at, you know, and wow, I'm back in the United States here now, you know, working, and then got to a point, I quit my job after 3.5 years on the Gemini Missile Program, and I wanted to work in the grassroots community. And about jobs, I helped create the North Richmond Tutorial Program out there, me and 6 other students, and we put that program together. We had 100 youth. They were tutoring. It was a real working class, poor, low income community, but 100 youth, we were paying them in the summer 36 hours and 16 hours in the winter, et cetera. The 10th grade, 2 to the 1st grade, the 11th grade, the 2nd grade, the 12th grade, et cetera, and so on, this kind of stuff. And those little paychecks, those little minimum wage paychecks going back into the household, plus it was an educational institutional framework in that poor and low income grassroots community. That was what's important to me. It was one thing to sit up and talk philosophy and talk principles, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. And yes, it's good sincerity in it and stuff. But for me, it's like I'm an architect. You know, I draw plans. I do three-dimensional structure, architecture, what have you, et cetera. That's just the plans and the details and the specifics and the specifications, you know what I mean, et cetera. But now it's time to build the house, you see what I mean? Build a program, build a framework. This is where it comes from. And that's where I come from. I brought all of my knowledge. I mean, I love math, and back in those days at Merritt College, I'd gotten up to in math, you know, college math, et cetera, you know, the application of the quadratic formula, et cetera. And that's one thing. But I couldn't sit around and just talk, you know, talk, you know what I mean? I like to do real things and stuff. Anyway, Stokely Carmichael's book came out, Black Power. And then that was in 1995, and I was moving over from the North Oakland Richmond program to Department of Human Resources, City Government of Oakland, running the youth jobs programs. Anyway, what happened here is that they're saying Black Power this, Black Power that, blah, 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 boom, and I hear girls, and I got in a discussion with some guys. I said, well, you guys not going to have any power until you get some political seats. What you mean, political seats? Them the white man seats. I said, you better try to make us some black folks and colored folks seats. I say, because those are the people that makes the laws. These are the people that allocate the monies and rent. These are the people that make laws that perpetuate discrimination. They're the ones that made the law that said that Rosa Parks had to move the back of the bus. I said, these people, if you don't get those politics, you're not going to have any power, what have you, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I don't know what you're talking. They were confused. You see what I mean? I said, look, I did demographic research by this time, working for the city government. But for my own purposes, I did a demographic research across America, with this black power. How many black politicians was duly elected to political office across the United States of America was the question I asked. And I got up to 50, including Adam Clayton Powell. It's only 50 black folks. And it probably was a few more, I just had missed it, but I'm just saying no, then in the demographic search, I says, wait a minute then. Let me ask you, how many political seats can one be elected to in the United States of America? And wow, when I looked and calculated all the mayor, city council, even part-time low maintenance seats, et cetera, boom, 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 county supervisorial seats, sheriff's departments, what have you, et cetera, I came up with over 500,000 political seats one can be elected to in the United States of America. And we only got 50 black folks. Let me see, how many Asians is over here? How many people? I got to find a few more over there and a few more over there, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. We need political power. This is the basis of why I wanted to start a political party. People say the Panther's this, the Panther's this, but I was starting a real political party. The idea of a political party here is that we have to organize the people. We have to get them registered to vote. And in California, we already had the right to register to vote. Okay, by this time, too, the register to vote was going on in the South, with nicking everybody, et cetera, and so on. That's true. But we need to get political seats. This is where I was coming from, truly. No, it was, and you got to work this to do this, and you got to work people. So I was good at speaking with people, rapping with them, teaching them the black history, my African American people's history, as I had studied and researched it up to that time. And the next thing I know, I'm there still working for the Department of Human Resources. I was still working for the city government of Oakland, California, when I created the Black Panther Party. You have to understand this. I mean, at the North Oakland Neighborhood Service Center, where I was the community liaison there, boom, I lived closest to the particular building, et cetera. It's a city government operation, boom, boom, boom. And boom, somebody broke into the place, et cetera, boom, well, they contact me to do that, and I walk down there with my pistol hanging on my shoulder, et cetera, This is just a break-in. This is before the party ever started, you know what I mean? Cops didn't say nothing about my gun, you know what I mean? Boom. Somebody broke into the place, they stole some correcto, selector, typewriters, what have you, and other stuff. We took a list of all of that, boom, 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 boom. And they got broke in 2 or 3 times and stuff. I'm just saying, this is what was going on. At the same time, then right in that period, I started the Black Panther Party. And it was just a process, but actually, for it to jump off, you have to understand other things happen. I was doing some research on surviving Africanisms, and more importantly, on Stagger Lee, the lumpen proletariat of America. See, having digested Frantz Fanon's Wretched of the Earth and his constant reference to the lumpen proletariat, and his whole psychological analysis of being a revolutionary 24 hours around the clock, and his examples is that you'll find yourself running from the racist police. They'll never catch you, or you run from them and you fall off a cliff, but you never hit the bottom. He says, you've been a revolutionary 24 hours around the clock when you sleep. My part says, wow, this guy is something else. But his point is, to me, it was like, it's like, I have to get out here and get this thing going. We were doing this research, and the guy, Huey and them wanted me to recite this poem. Uncle Sammy called me full of lucid. Now, I picked this poem up. I picked this poem up out of the Liberator magazine that was published out of New York. Ronald Stone wrote this poem. And with this, it was just one of those poems that struck me, At the same time, Bertram Morrell and I, not Huey, because Huey had left Merritt College then, he was in Knight Law School, organized an operation, to deal with not having to go into the draft in the war in Vietnam. And tell about, in other words, we read the newspapers, boom, 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 29% of all the people dying on the front lines of Vietnam is African American plus whoever. my point is that, wow, why should we let ourselves fight in the war in Vietnam? This country is not recognizing our constitutional, democratic, civil, human rights in this country. Boom, boom, boom. We have to stop this. And then I had digested Dr. Herbert Aptheker's documentation of all the wars we had fought in. Boom. I had been in the United States Air Force. I knew their power. Structural repair, high-performance aircraft. And I was a lead man as a corporal, but just because I had that top skill level, I mean, I could pull a beat on airframe and airframe repair. I got 1 month to clean up my category with my people. I saw the hills where the atomic bombs. I seen them in security load these nuclear weapons on these bombs. And these big bombers, this is the B-52 bomber. In other words, I understood all of this before I started the party. And so when I get to starting the party and understanding what the need for that political power and those political seats, it is that the people have to control this stuff. This is what you know what we have to do. Anyway, we decided as a tactic that we're going to go out and patrol the police and observe the police. Now, a lot of people think this is a bunch of macho crap. It's not that. It's not the way you couldn't do that with me. You know what I mean? You couldn't come out there with. I'm saying that when we decided to do that, I told Huey he has to research every law, and Huey's night in law school. You know, in night law school for 2 years around that period. I said I want everything researched on the guns and their relationship to our civil rights and the Bill of Rights, et cetera. I said you have to do this, and then we're going to make sure that when we go out there, we are legal on every level dealing with the guns. But this was a tactic to try to capture the imagination of the people in the community. And if I could capture the imagination of the people in the community, then I can better organize them into a political electoral machine so we can take over some of these political power seats. If you're going to have some power, you got to get the political, that's the objective. So we're out there that first night, to make a long story short and get to the point. Huey did what I told him he had to do, et cetera, you know, et cetera. I'm the chairman of the Black Panther Party, and boom, and he really researched, he really got into that thing, it was a thing. And the cops, and you got 20 or 30 people on the street corner, we walk down, it's nighttime, et cetera, you know, and we have all these guns, we don't point guns at people, see, we had every law about the guns down, every fish and game code law, what have you, you name it, we knew it, what it was about, how you could not ride in the car with a live round in the chamber of a rifle or a shotgun, how it did not apply to a handgun that you could have a live round in the chamber. We had all of this down. So when the cop turns around and says, you have no right to observe me, no, California State Supreme Court ruling states, wait a minute. No, California State Supreme Court ruling states that every citizen has a right to stand and observe a police officer carrying out their duty as long as they stand a reasonable distance away. A reasonable distance in that particular room is constituted as 8 to 10 feet. We're standing approximately 20 feet from you, and we'll observe you whether you like it or not. And some sister there, she was well-dressed sister, came out of Slim Jenkins' house. She says, well, go ahead on and tell it, mister. And then the cop says, is that gun loaded? Huey says, if I know it's loaded, it's good enough. Will you have the right? Huey says, no. Huey cited something from the United States Supreme Court, somebody versus so-and-so. Therefore, you cannot remove my property from it without due process of law. Step back. You cannot touch my weapon. And a tall black fellow over there, he said, man, what kind of Negroes is these? I'm trying to show you, as I remember and as I experienced that, what it meant to capture the imagination of the people and to see their reaction and how their imaginations are captured, you know. And then the cop got his arrested. It was about, he only stopped this guy for a ticket, you know, and got him in the car. And then after he was walking, he stopped. This one sister, Geraldine, I'll never forget it. She was in our organization for 1 month. But anyway, she had these long, pretty earrings under the dark light, glittering and flipping. She had a big 44 pistol strapped to her side, etc. You know, and everybody who carried a handgun, he carried stacks of the 10-point platform and program, what have you. So I'm just saying, that's how it got started. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, the cop left. brothers and sisters, I said, my name is Bobby Seale. I'm chairman of the Black Panther Party. This is Huey P. Newton. He's the minister of defense of the Black Panther Party. I says, and we're going to organize a new organization. We're going to organize and we're going to take over the political power structure. We're going to take over the political seats, and we're going to change things, etc. If you want to come to PE class tomorrow, this is Friday, tomorrow, Saturday at 2 p.m. at 5624 Grove Street, where I put the first office up. This is how it got started. Now, remember, I got 14, 15 people in this organization. This is not a mass organization. See, so I'm just trying to explain to you, I try to get people to understand it was not this macho crap that they keep kind of propagate. I didn't even allow that. When in PE classes in the Black Panther Party, you cannot come in my political education classes. I mean, I know young people coming in, and I always had PE classes going on. I taught dialectics. I taught the basic dialectical principles and the application of that to your political party work and how you do your political party work in the community. Quantitative increase, quantitative decrease causes a qualitative leap or change. It's one of those basic dialectical principles. Boom. To me, it's mathematical. I love math. Boom, boom, boom. Increase, decrease. You know what I mean? The basic function of all mathematics, I begin to realize, the basic generalized function of all mathematics is addition and subtraction. And I would teach that to the class. You know what I mean? I would have one time increase, decrease factor. Man, I grew carrots in a 5-gallon cans, and over here, the proper depth to bury a carrot seed is 1 3/4 inches. I decreased it to 1 inch in this can, decreased to only 3/4 inch depth in this can, decreased to a 1/2 inch in this can, and a 1/4 inch in this can. And then go back this way. All the necessary water, sunshine, fertilizer, tilling of the soil for this particular depth of the carrot, and I decrease it accordingly. He said I decreased that amount. 12 weeks later, my carrots have grown. I drained the cans into the PE class. Over here, we have a shriveled up carrot. Over here, we have this big, giant quality carrot. Quantitative increase or quantitative decrease causes a qualitative leap or change. So I'm teaching the party members this principle, and you have to keep understanding it and how you do your political party work. When you are assigned to the precinct and the business district in that precinct to sell your Black Panther Party newspapers, and every party member is supposed to sell at least 100 papers a week, and 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of them will work together. I said it's the increased amount of times that you go there and sell the papers, and the increased amount of times that you talk and rap to the people about the issues and about the problems, you are decreasing the apathy and increasing the consciousness. So I want youth to understand what they have to do, why they have to do it, and how to see the results of their work. That's where you come in. And then you got some guy jump up in the middle of the political class. White man is the devil. No, boom, boom, boom. I said, wait a minute, brother, wait a minute. This is the black. You take your metaphor down to next Islam. They right down. I said, that's cool. I said, they build businesses and stuff in the community. I said, but in this here class, we function off of good, proven scientific evidentiary facts. So all of that, I ain't got time for that. You know, my point is, this is where I was coming from. And from a mathematical standpoint, I use that. I searched and researched in that demographic that throughout the South, from the Carolinas, Georgia, some other places, so Alabama, all the way through Mississippi and everywhere, tentatively, it looked like 22 counties that had population-wise the majority of black folks. So I make an argument with guys in the communities. You ain't gonna get no political power till you take some political power seats. And one of the power seats that's important in a county is the sheriff. The sheriff can be duly elected. Now, since they passed the voting rights bill, you got to get all the black folks elected, get you a righteously progressive brother who's going to be the sheriff, somebody like Robert Williams who had to go to Alvin to get him. I said, now he's the sheriff, so if the Ku Klux Klan come running down there, messing with y'all, sheriff can come out there and deputize 500 of you. Say, we're going to go over here and do that's power to stop racist killing and murder. I see, so that's the way the concept that I was trying to get young brothers to see. But in the political sphere of other parties, who makes the laws, etc., that's what it was all about. And that the reason that organization started really was just what I told you and give you an understanding of that. And I was just dedicated to the whole concept because to me, it's about how do we liberate ourselves.
Okay, one of the things you brought up, Bobby, was this phenomena you guys are engaged in of called cop watch, as I remember it. Seeing black people with guns, right? My question is, do you think it's still some room or reason to have cop watch today in contemporary America with the issue of police brutality and police killings of black Americans?
Yeah, cop watch is going on. What happened was, in the day that we were there and we used law books, tape recorders, and guns to introduce our position and as a tactic, as I say, to really capture the imagination of the people. One of the things we said that night after the cop took the person off and we told him is that you can join the Black Panther Party, work with the Black Panther. You do not have to carry a gun. Why? Because it was not about whether or not you had a gun so much. It was about whether or not you was ready to do political organizing work to build the electoral machine so we can take over the political seats. You see what I mean? So even as we grew, party members, every party member did not run around carrying a gun. They just didn't. In fact, at one point, when the party started growing, a couple of incidents happened, and I took guns away from party members out in the field working. You don't take no guns with you at all. What have you? I don't want you with guns. I want you with the Black Panther Party newspaper. If they're going to arrest you, take the arrest. We're going to bail you out. You know what I mean? We try. And one of the things overall in the party, one of the things we started doing very early, we built one of the best network of lawyers, particularly connected with the Lawyers Guild Group. And who helped us put that together? None other than Roy Wilkins, NAACP, United States of America. I mean, I'm just trying to say that was important. The guns were secondary. They're only a tool to be used in a particular time, in a particular situation, as well as a hammer or whatever, et cetera, as a tool. You see what I mean? My point is that that was all secondary. It is the power structure. And then, of course, my friend at the time, Eldridge, Eldridge evolved to be the Minister of Information. And, of course, me and Huey heard about this guy on radio, what have you, et cetera, and we wanted to meet him, et cetera. And then Marvin Jackman, who did the plays that I starred in, the play, whatever. I wound up meeting Eldridge. Anyway, Eldridge at the Black Panther Party newspaper, when he started putting offensive statements, not offensive, but offense statements, the Black Panther Party was about self-defense when attacked, whether you are a racist Ku Klux Klaner or even if you're a policeman, you come in here trying to attack me without formally arresting me, I'm going to defend myself. If you come and say, you're under arrest, as formal, I'll take the arrest. I have no problem. I mean, so that was a policy in the party from Jump Street. By 1969, Richard M. Nixon and company, that operated. It was what we hear about what J. Edgar Hoover did is what really Nixon ordered. In my research for my film, and I think Vanderbilt University has probably got one of the most profound archival frameworks. I found one of the Watergate tapes, Nixon taped everything, phone conversations, etc. And here is this tape from my film, Nixon's voice. Now, J. Edgar, what are you going to do? You get rid of these Black Panthers from me. And J. Edgar said, well, sir, we've been trying to move on that. Well, you got to move on it and get it going because I want them out of the way. Now, look, John Mitchell's going to be calling you. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. It's just the President of the damn United States of America. See, now that sounds just like something Trump would do today. See, you have to understand, people upset because he got elected. I was upset, but I'm upset in the other kind of way. I've been through, and some of y'all been through Nixon and whatever, but I'm just saying, guns was secondary. It was only a tool to be used for self-defense. When eldritch people put out there that you free Huey or the sky's the limit, and I said, Eldridge, this is the second time you put that out there. I had a private conversation. I said, I don't think you should have put this out there. What are you talking about, Chairman? I said, the sky's the limit. I said, it's offense. It's not defense. I want defense. Oh, I don't know, Chairman. Anyway, when it came down to Huey's trial and the deliberations, I told the people, I said, nobody is going to go out in the streets. And so I'm getting in an argument with people on my Central Committee, and Eldridge and I says, no, nobody. I don't want no party members out in the streets at all. My point is that they, in effect, at the point, since they propagated the sky's the limit stuff, at the point that they started deliberations, nobody. I'm talking about, and keep black folks in your community, chapters and branches now. Throughout the San Francisco Oakland Bay Area, I probably had 5 different Black Panther Party offices in different communities, from Richmond, California to Palo Alto, whatever, et cetera. Tell everybody, stay in. And they had to. And when they started, wow, we not only had the highway patrol come in the city and everything, we had National Guard, everything was ready. You know, and I knew, it's just that I knew the scope and the range of the power structure's ability to overkill. You know what I mean? I never liked riots. I never supported riots. In history, they will tell you that the Black Panthers started riots. We never started riots. I never. In fact, I'm on the front pages of the newspapers, the establishment newspapers in the Oakland, California area, 3 or 4 days after Dr. Martin Luther King's killed. In the same community that I put up the tutorial program, a riot started. And I went out there and stopped the riot. Told them to send these brothers and sisters home, get these people home. People knew me in the community because I put that program up there. Everybody knew me because not only did I put the program up, I would have Saturday, that summer, I remember that one summer, I had Saturday PE, community political education classes, teaching our African and African American people's history as I knew it and had researched it at that particular time, you know. Those people knew. So people followed my directions. Then I had to appear in court because Eldridge Cleveland wouldn't let me appear in that court because there was supposed to be some threats on my life when I got to court. And then Eldridge Cleveland would take me over to what he called a safe house. And I didn't realize that the safe house was a block from the police department. Anyway, I woke up the next morning to discover Dr. King was killed on television. And whatever. I finally wound up calling my lawyer, et cetera, and of course, let them know to tell the judge we'll be appearing in court. So I finally appeared in court, but I stopped that riot before that. And so the judge was talking about taking away my probation. And Charles Gary says, Your Honor, can I approach the bench? He says, yes, Mr. Gary. Charles Gary took the newspaper up there. It said, Bobby Seale stops riot in Richmond, California. And then the judge says, well, Mr. Seale, why didn't you show up? I said, because there were threats on my life if I would show up here. That's why. I says, et cetera. But he let us go and let me alone. My point is that the guns were secondary. We got labeled with the guns because we did carry the guns. But the National Rifle Association is labeled with guns. The National Rifle Association came out against us having guns in those days after I led the armed delegation. They came out against us. I mean, it's a profound, mean history, and it's very, You know, I got a right to defend myself. And when they did attack us, finally, the Nixon administration, I mean, it started off, let me say it this way. Listen to me, brothers and sisters. They killed Dr. King, and in 7 months, Richard M. Nixon is elected. When they killed Dr. King, I only had 400 members up and down the West Coast. And then by 7 months later, I have 5,000 members in 49 chapters and branches throughout the United States of America and cities, okay? And I'm going to all these chapters and branches and teaching the dialectics and the community organizing and et cetera. How to organize, and you have to have a program in the community, the free breakfast program, the free sickle cell anemia testing program, the free preventative medical health clinics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Programmatic grassroots community organizing, unifying the people in the community around the various programs. And we were successful ultimately with the breakfast program. Why? Because J. Edgar Hoover came out to attack it. He first said in December, J. Edgar Hoover first said in December that the Black Panther Party was a threat to the internal security of America. That was his phrasing. 3 or 4 months later, he says the Black Panther Party's Breakfast for Children program is a threat to the internal security of America. You have to read the actual memo that he also sent out saying that we got to telling to all 43 district offices of the FBI throughout the United States of America, we want to take people, and we don't want white liberals nor moderate blacks supporting the Black Panther Party's Breakfast for Children program. So that program, and he came out right at the time that Willie Brown, who was a new politician in the area, and Ronald Reagan was the Republican governor. So Willie and them, they put a bill in for $5 million for all schools in the state of California to have free breakfast and free lunch programs. $5 million at the time, and that was a level of a lot of money at the time. They sent it to Ronnie Reagan. Ronnie vetoes $4 million of it. They bring it back and send it to the state senate and the assembly and override Ronald Reagan's veto and put the whole damn $5 million in for free breakfast for children. 28 state legislators across the country in the next year or so did something quite similar. You see, now, my idea is if I have 1,001 different kinds of grassroots programs that becomes an issue, problem, relationship, then if we could get legislation, back to political power again, you know, we could change a lot of things, you know what I mean? It was there. On the sickle cell anemia testing, we started that whole movement on sickle cell anemia testing in this country on a broad scale. We had the clinics, et cetera, and started setting up the operations, et cetera. But we worked a different way with that. We work with the hospitals. We work with all the medical institutions and frameworks and stuff in these communities. And we would have sickle cell anemia testing programs at churches and stuff. You know, we bring the medics and all the people down and all the sterilists, whatever. We did that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And boom, in a 5-year period from the time we started that, it evolved to a point where they could announce and state and estimate that over 1 million people have now been tested for the first time in the history of the United States of America for sickle cell anemia. That's the success of those programs in terms of organizing and getting people ready by playing on the program and a real issue in the community. Yeah, we had 20 different programs that evolved out to the Black Panther Party. And beyond just the sickle cell anemia test and the free health clinics and the breakfast program, young brothers and sisters were in those chapters. And remember, 3/4 of all the people, almost 3/4 of the people in the Black Panther Party vowed to be sisters in the Black Panther Party, by the way. And my point is, they put those programs together. I looked up, and so they got creative. I looked up in Richmond, Virginia, chapter added the free pest control program. Sister Audrey Jones, she ran the Boston, Massachusetts state chapter. She added the free pharmacy program. Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Larry Little and those brothers and sisters down there, They fooled around and went and got them some grants and stuff and added a free ambulance program. I mean, they got, once they understood the relationship of what to do, raising the conscience, uniting the people, bringing the issue out there, demonstrating it. So it's just an added tactic to regular demonstrations of us putting real programs out there, and boom, and those run. And that's what shook them up. The programs and coalition politics. We did not play the race card game in this slang. We understood that we are African American peoples as a community. Native American peoples have culture, etc., and they're human, etc., etc. Two, you couldn't play that game with me. I mean, even though I was just in community college and an engineering design major, I took every anthropology course they had. I loved anthropology. So I read humanity's existence in a broader way. You know what I mean? So we get to the class analysis of racism, of vicious exploitation by the avaricious corporate money rich and all this. This is what the problem is about. So whether you're black, white, blue, red, green, yellow, or polka dot, in the final analysis, we want to change and get new laws, new rules, et cetera, get new policies and new programs to evolve, and everybody, all humanity, benefit for them equally, et cetera, and so on. That's the concept. You know what I mean? And it doesn't take away from the fact that if I'm an African American and struggling, it doesn't take away from the fact that others are also struggling. I'm just saying it's more than isolationist identity politics. You see what I mean? It's much broader. I like to talk about the need for greater cooperational humanism. Today, when I talk about ecology, I say reclaiming, recycling, and re-evolving ecological, economic, and environmental empowerment around all people's active and creative cooperational humanism. REACH. And I say, reach, you know what I mean? And tell the young folks. So, I'm still doing this stuff.
Okay, let me rephrase my question.
In the mic.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. I take your point that you don't want to engage in offensive violence against the state, other communities, or the police. My question was, given the history of and the present reality of police violence against the black community, is there a reason or a point to engage in defensive cop watch within the black community or not?
Well, the right to self-defense, you stand on that.
Right.
Now, it's one or two things. In the 1960s, one of the great characteristics of the peaceful protest, we took the arrest, you know what I mean, et cetera. That's one thing. But if they're going to come in and shooting, you know what I mean, I have to shoot back to stop them from shooting, to stop them from killing. You see what I mean? But I don't want the emphasis, even today, on the gun so much as I want the emphasis on the Constitution, democratic, civil, human right to peacefully protest and to peacefully redress our grievances. That's the thing. I got in an argument with Eldridge about that. He put Dr. Martin Luther King's picture in the Black Panther Party newspaper and called him a bootlicker. And I ran over. I said, Eldridge, why you do this? Oh, Chairman, Martin is talking all that nonviolent. I says, are you out of your mind? I says, we support the right to peaceful protest. Mm-hmm. What do you mean? I says, Eldridge, we got coalitions with all these organizations around here. They have peaceful protests. I said, Dr. King is the premier person of using peaceful protest as a tactic, you know what I mean, to organize and unite people to stand. Boom. And to a point of arguing with him that you don't do that. Do not put Dr. King's picture in that. You do not do that. Dr. King was to jail. Dr. King, these people are tried to kill him, etc. And this is all before Dr. King was killed. But I'm just saying, that I leave your guns at home. You see what I mean? The very fact that you got that little piece of technology, that's the cop watch. That's the mass cop watch program now. You know what I mean? That piece of technology, and I can take a camera of something that's going wrong. You know what I mean? Et cetera. That's important. You see what I mean? To me. But the marches and the protests, et cetera, has to be running up and jumping up and saying, it does nothing. Notice something. There was, in Dallas, Texas, the police officer chief there was trying to protect the right of the protesters. What's the police chief's name? I forget his name. Brown. And there was no protest issue in Dallas at the time. It was just the Black Lives Matter organization and people in the community holding a normal protest. And what in effect happens, you know, some days later, somebody comes in there and shoots up and kills some policemen. All right? Now, I put it right on my website. We do not go around assassinating police. I'm not going to stoop to the same level that a Ku Klux Klan or a racist or idiot does. You see what I mean? I'm not going to do that. That's not the tactic. What we want is to organize the people so we can take community control over the police department. Now, when I say they talked about ballot of the bullet, polemic phrasing that comes from Malcolm X. I took in all his things about the difference between self-defense, you know, where you have to use the bullet, you know, etc. But I took from that we preferred the ballot. I preferred the ballot. You see what I mean? My right to vote. If I can vote, what? I can vote the racists out of the political seat so I can make proper laws that make human sense, you know. That's where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? That's all. It's enough of it's enough problem that, and my own organization can tell you that we're probably going to wind up having shootouts. You see, you have to make a distinction between the protest activity that you got out there and whether or not you have guns or not. The fact that you got the camera is much more powerful than 9 or 10 guys walking around with, I got a right to open carry. All those little cheap laws that these right-wingers have made, open carry, the right-wingers are making those laws. Stand your ground, etc. The right-wingers are making those laws. You see what I mean? They're making those laws. You fall into that trap, and you got young brothers out there falling. And then get up, and the next thing you know, somebody has killed 4 or 5 policemen in Shreveport or something like that, or something, I forget the amount. My point becomes, that's outside. You see, to a point. You see, I remember when the Occupy movement was going on in Oakland, California, we found a policeman in the ranks of those trying to throw Molotov cocktails in the business fronts in Oakland, California. I says, so what's behind this? And I remembered in the trial, it's a Great Chicago 7 conspiracy trial that I was part of, that one of the FBI agents literally testified that his job was to go in and encourage and start some violent activity on the part of the protesters in Lincoln and Grant Parks and stuff. You know, it's a Democratic National Convention protest. They're slicking you. You know, don't go out there running out there with no guns. On page 69, and that book sees the time. Now, it's a poorly written book, but you will get people tell me a real sense of the time. A book was done by tape recording, okay? And it was done all in a matter of 2 months. You know, it wasn't like Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice. You know, so Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice was a couple of years of work, you know, in prison. We had time. I'm under pressure in jail at the time the Seize the Time was done. It was done in jail. I had Art Goldberg, who was a very close friend of ours in Charles Gary's office. He wrote for the Guardian newspaper. I'd have him come in. They wouldn't let Black Panthers in. You know what I mean? Now, of course, I got Dr. Carlton Goodley. Dr. Carlton Goodley was an African-American doctor in San Francisco, et cetera, to make Black Panther Party people, to give Black Panther Party people press passes, you know what I mean, stuff like this here. But my point is, oh my God, it's page 69 Seize the Time. Why we are not racist. We will never stoop to the low scurvy level to hate or despise another people or ethnic group just because of the color of their skin. We won't do that. This is not what this program, that's not the goal objective. People fall in that trap. You see, some brothers and sisters, they're not conscious enough in the grassroots community. Yeah, I'm tired of what the police are doing. Well, if they're going to be racist, I got a right to be racist. Come on, man, please. That ain't where we go. He's falling into a trap. You see what I mean? It's the same thing. Because, in other words, my struggle was trying to reflect the goal objective. That goal objective was about human liberation, being liberated from exploitation and racist discrimination and fear, etc. Being liberated from that kind of crap. Look at what Trump did. Trump is playing on fear. It's about discrimination. It's about everything. That's what they want. That's what they want. That's what the power structure, that corporate money rich and the dark money people want to do. So they can run around and exploit and take the mineral resources from other people in the world. This is what they're trying to do. We have to get our progressives duly elected to political office, real dedicated, true progressives. It's like the House of Representatives right now has about 89 or 90 progressive voting politicians, some on a low scale, but some on a high scale, like Congresswoman Barbara Lee, like Bobby Rush. Now, Barbara Lee and Bobby Rush evolved out of the Black Panther Party with me. You know what I mean? These are representatives of the people, but they evolved to that framework. Others, Maxine Waters, these are great young politicians. I mean, you have to understand that. And then every once in a while, you got some young white ones and others. They're progressive, and this is what we're after. We're after those kind of politicians. You see, they're all over the world. If we can dominate that, I mean, we need to have not just 80 or 90. We need to have 3-4 times as many in the House of Representatives. But state-level framework, state level and all the way down to county supervisorial positions and political seats, et cetera. We got to do the change, and we got to do a lot of work, you know, in our communities. I was speaking at the Oakland Museum based on a big time on the 50th anniversary framework at the Oakland Museum on the day of the Women's March protesting Trump. Man, when I got down there, I says, whoa. And I call up Renee. He runs the museum. He says, Bobby, I don't know if you can get any parking space. I got down there. Man, I had to just take my little camera out and just take pictures. The thousands. I loved it. I loved it. So many. Oh, my God. That's the kind of stuff I like. The 3 million who came out plus, et cetera, around the country. Boom. Next time, we need to make it 5, 6, 8, 10 million. I mean, this is the kind of stuff we got to do, and we got to get people and listen, get your heart, mind, and soul. You hitching your wagon, your efforts, et cetera, to human liberation. This is what it's about. You know what I mean? From women's rights to whoever's constitutional democratic civil human rights. That can happen. And this is what we're going to have to do. And I'm going to do everything I can to speak. Now, you know, these guys, the Koch brothers, they sent out, I think, economic syllabus and grants to numerous universities to get them to teach their economic program. These are the Koch brothers, literally. This was a big article printed in one of the top New York magazines. I forget which one it was. I don't know if it was Harper's or the Atlantic or something. But somebody researched that for me and emailed me. Bobby emailed And find that article. It's an article came out about 5, 6 years ago. But when they pulled that article out, I had just spoke at Seminole University in Orlando, Florida. And the young Italian professor there, that I knew him from other colleges years earlier, he says, Bobby, I want you to come down. I says, okay, I'll come down to speak, etc. So I arrive a day early. This is what, 7 years ago, I guess, or so? And he says, Bobby, let me show you, man, right here, the Tea Party is protesting you coming here to speak. I says, no kidding. I said, that's interesting. You know what I mean? I've in the past, most Ku Klux Klanners never came to our rallies. Because we always said we would defend ourselves. And after we got into a few shootouts and defended ourselves, I guess it says, well, them guys are serious. They, yes, we are. But my point, these guys sent that stuff out, and then they financed Tea Party type student organizations on campus. They did all across the United States of America, all the four-year institutions, historically black colleges, et cetera, have received these things. You know what I mean? And some people are taking them because they came with grants. I mean, the Koch brothers sent big-time grants out to teach their economic courses. Blah, 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 blah. My point is, I've hit a couple of colleges on the one hand, and they pop up in the situation because I got in. But I sent that out, and then the next year after they sent all those things out, what happened there? Normally, I'm going to do 10 or 11 or 12 speaking engagements every February back at that time, back in those days. All right? That's what I was doing, you know. And suddenly, I got no speaking engagements the next year in Black History Month. I said, oh, my God, what's going on here? Blah, 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 blah. And they sent me these articles and all this. I said, God, these people, in other words, they really blocked me. And I had to get on my high horse and do my own Facebook and et cetera, et cetera. Then I had this list that was come out of the University of Texas in Austin. And it's a list of all the colleges and universities. Do you know, I believe that the Koch brothers got them to discontinue that list. I could click up any college, go to the thing, go to student organizations, go to programming boards and other people on the colleges, email them information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I did to try to build my speaking engagements back up, but they have not been built up back to where I was back then. Because in those, I mean, I helped put my son through medical school, et cetera. I mean, he got the grants and stuff, but he's a doctor now and fine. You know, the other boy, I told you about my son, right? Yeah, he gets $3,000 a month for the rest of his life for being wounded in Afghanistan. He's the United States Army. He's fought in Iraq and, you know, he went and jumped up and got back in. And next thing I know, I says, why did you do that? And he said, I don't know, Dad. I didn't know they was doing that. I said, the Bush is getting ready to start a war. But anyway, he had gotten back in. And a year later, they sent him over, and he fought in Iraq for 18 months. Come back stateside for a year, and then they sent him to Afghanistan, and he was wounded after about 14, 15 months. And then they took him and sent him up to Fort Lewis in Tacoma, Washington, top Army medical research framework up there. And they kept him up there 8 months, et cetera. And so I thought he was they're going to give you a 3916, you know, medical, whatever, et cetera, honorable status. And he says, no, I'm still in the Army. I says, you are? I says, come on, man, I want you to get out, man. You didn't fight, okay. He said, yeah, I didn't mind you fighting because, as far as I'm concerned, the Ku Klux, the Al Qaeda and the rest of them idiots, ain't nothing but a bunch of international Ku Klux Klanners, as far as the hell I'm concerned, running around indiscriminate killing. I don't relate to nobody's indiscriminate killing. So, boom, boom, boom. I said, don't go. He said, no, Dad, okay. So he was supposed to be at the birthday rally, founding the Black Panther Party, and his wife called up and she says, he's not coming. This is what? He took a mission. I said, he took some mission. I said, he went to Africa, because he was telling me about, I'm going to take a mission. You know what that the native the brother in Nigeria who kidnapped all the young women, et cetera, et cetera. He's gonna go over there and fight that guy, you know. But he didn't get that one. So finally, she says, "I can't tell you where he's gone." I says, "You can't." Well, I said, "Well, don't tell him." But you really want to know? I says, "Look, girl, I've been in the military. If they told you that, don't tell me. Keep your mouth shut." Anyway, he called me up. He's in Guantanamo. I said, "What the hell are you doing down in Guantanamo? It's supposed to be shutting that damn place down." Anyway, that's a whole nother story. I'm just saying, we have been caught up in all the wars in this country. When we started protesting in the 1960s, I got out there. You know, Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer. I don't want to give a good eagle-eyed McFreakle tripping women down. We weren't going to fight in the damn war no more. Uncle Sammy, don't shuck and jive me. I'm hip to popcorn jazz changes you blow. You know damn well what I mean. You school my naive heart to sing red, white, and blue stars and stripes on and to pledge eternal allegiance to all things blue, true, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, white chalk, white skin with USA tattooed all over. When my soul trusted Uncle Sammy and loved Uncle Sammy and died in dreams for you, Uncle Sammy, you jam your emasculate manhood symbol, puff with gonorrhea of corrupt, unrealty myths into my ungreased nigger, ghetto, black ass of my Jewish, Catholic, Hindu, Islamic Sioux. What? Sure, free public health penicillin cured me. But Uncle Sammy, if you want to stay a freak show strongman God, screw yourself. I will not serve. My point is, my point is, I had been in the military service, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I saw it, but you know, this was 1960, 66 when I cited that poem. That poem put me in a fight with the Berkeley police. Me and Huey go to jail. We couldn't pass go. We went straight to jail. And then we got out, and I got bailed out and went before Judge Stats. And I said, "Judge Stats, we did a no contest plea here, but it's not fair. They lied." I recited the poem. I says, and the undercover cop who showed no badge, he says I was using obscene language, you know, the MF words, you know. And I says, it's unfair. Well, Mr. Seale, I says, Your Honor, I said, I work for the city government of Oakland, California. I run youth jobs programs, you know. I says, I says, and Huey Newton standing here, I says, I hired him. I said, this man is in law school at night over in San Francisco. I says, and he's my assistant. You know, he's one of my adult assistant, my program. I hired this man. I said, it's not fair if you're going to violate our, if you're going to put us in jail for 1 to 10 years because we had to fight with the police and they started and they beat me up. I says, yeah, I cut him in the hand. And I said, I cut him in the hand when they kicked all him and all the other undercovers off of me. I said, when they came back at me, yellow T-shirt came back at me, man, I pulled a knife out and told him to get off of me. Well, you use, I says, Your Honor, it was a legal knife. They didn't charge me with it. It wasn't nothing but one of those little scout knives. I said, in all my toolboxes, I say, I'm a machinist. I said, I'm a carpenter. I says, structural repair. I says, non-destructive. I says, I got these knives in mine. I says, it's a little knife, 2.5 inches, and it's got a can opener in it. It's got an ice pick in it. And that's what kind of knife. I had these knives in all my toolboxes and all my trade framework. So my point is, he gave us probation, and I was glad he did it. I said, Huey, let's get our butts down and meet me at the Warren Poverty Center tonight. What are we going to do? I says, Huey, we've been talking about starting a new organization. I says, we got to get this. I says, we could have been in jail for 1 to 10 years, man. I said, let's get out here and do this stuff, man. And we got down there and finished our first draft of the 10-point platform and program. and roll that program out. And then finally, after a couple of days later, in my warm poverty office that night when everybody else is off work, I'm in the place, you know what I mean? And I found the paragraphs related to the founding of this country that said, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary. You know, I can pronounce this. I can say this different kinds of ways. I can do John Wayne. John Wayne would say, when in the course of human events, you know. Then there's Dr. Martin Luther King might sound like, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary, something to this effect, you know. But when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for any one people to dissolve the political bondage which have connected them with another, or paraphrasing, when a decent respect to the opinions of humankind dictate that they should declare the causes which impel them, and I used to say, to dissolve that political bondage. When a long train of abuses and usurpations pursues and invariably evinces a design to reduce a people, a humanity, under absolute despotism, then it is the right of the people to alter or change that government and provide new guards for their future security and happiness. Think about that. Now, it's the Declaration of Independence. Now, oh, that's the white man's stuff. Oh, it is. 1 + 1 and 2 + 2, you know, is a mathematical exactness, right? So a white man writes some stuff on the board. A black man writes some stuff on the board. How factual is it? This is where I'm coming from. It ain't about whether it's some white man stuff. Listen at the words. When a long train of abuses and usurpations pursues and invariably evinces a design to reduce a people under absolute despotism, then it is the right of the people to alter, change that government and provide new guards for their future security and happiness. New guards, new politicians, progressive people. You see what I mean? This is what it's all about. And we got to do this. Get our education, and we have to have it. Make the money you can, but learn to hitch your wagon to the human liberation struggle in one way, shape, fashion, form, or another. That's the key. That's the key.
Okay, thank you very much, Bobby. Now I think it's time to turn over to the audience. Yes.
Both Eldridge Cleaver and... Get the mic. No, got one. Matt, got one? Oh, okay. So we want, Jim, Abby said that we want people to line up to ask questions, right, Matt? So we're going to put it right there. And we'll do about 20 minutes worth of questions. Is that okay? Yeah. Great. So I have a question, which is, both Eldridge Cleaver and Huey Newton died untimely deaths and, you know, had spirals. How would you, no one knew them better than you, how would you assess them, their historical importance, both Eldridge and Huey P?
Assessing Huey and Eldridge relative to what I was organizing?
Yeah, and subsequently, you know, help us understand. Both of them ended up, they had bad ends in different ways. And I never met Huey. I think, as you know, I interviewed, when I was working for Time Magazine, I spent a couple weeks with the Cleavers when they were underground on the left bank, when they were impaired. They just come from Algiers, and the hijackers showed up, and, you know, the whole story. We'll talk about it at dinner. So, you know, I had 12 hours of interviews with Eldridge Cleaver.
Oh, okay, great.
So I got to know him, and I encouraged Kathleen to come to Yale, which she did, and the rest, of course, is history. But I never met Huey P. I only just watched him from a distance. And he had a terrible end, and I just wondered.
He had a terrible end.
Yep.
Huey, how do I put this? I met Huey, got him to come to, see, I got Richard Aoki, Bertram Morrell, and we ran into Huey in the hallway to come to my anthropology class. And well, I'm making an argument about correct social science reference to black folks in the anthropology class. And I didn't care for the reference Negroid. And even though there was some philosophical writings and things about the phrasing negritude and stuff, I was, this is my beginning days. But my point was just in this anthropology class, and my argument was we need to come up with better, correct social science reference. And people are arguing in the class with me, Bobby Seale, every time we turn around, you interrupting this class and talking that old Afro black talk. Well, these black brothers and sisters are still, they made reference to themselves as Negroes, what have you, et cetera. And this is all that image. My point is that we're in the class, and they came to the class, and Huey got up into the back and says, "Can I say something?" And the instructor didn't know who he was, because he's not in my class. I'm a friend of Bobby's. I like to suggest Africanoid as opposed to Negroid. And he sits down. And when he sits down, that excites me, and I stand up. I'm in the front. Huey's in the back. I said, "That's it, that's it, that's it." She says, "Mr. Seale, sit down." So I sit down. And she says, Africanoid. She wrote it out and underlined the syllables. She says, "Okay, for anthropological reference, this is pretty good." I said, "But wait a minute, you got to equalize them." And everybody, "Bobby, here you go again, you interrupt." She was accepting the term. I says, "No, you have to have equalized the terminology." "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, every time you make reference to black folks, it was Negroid." "Okay, well, good, it's Africanoid now." "And every time you make reference people of Asian descent, you say Mongoloid, etc." I said, but in this class, you yourself and other anthropologists says Caucasian when you get to the white folks, the European people. "What are you talking about?" I says, "Equalize the terminology. From now on, Africanoid, Mongoloid, and Caucasoid." So those early days of raising consciousness and making arguments about your existence, your meaning, your relevancy, et cetera. So I'm just saying, Huey, that's when I first met him, really met him. And I took him across the street to buy him lunch. And I told the sister I gave her, I says, "Just $3. I says, and get him anything he want. 2 hamburgers, 10 hamburgers, milkshake, pile of mo, anything he want." And so I asked him, I says, "Why are you going to college?" He said, "To entertain my mind." I said, "Now that's heavy." I said, "You going to college to entertain your mind?" I thought that was heavy, you know what I mean? Boom, 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 boom. So he would say, "Where you get all that money?" Well, I had pulled my whole wad out, and I took $3 off and put it back in the pocket. I wasn't trying to show off, and it just happened. And I said, "I worked for it." He says, "Oh, no, you got a scam with that kind of money." I said, "What you mean a scam?" I didn't know nothing about no damn scam. Anyway, his brother or something had told him a short chain scam or something like that. We left the thing, and Huey's talking about some guy who took his wine or something. He fought him. He said, "What would you do if somebody did something like that to you?" I says, "I don't know." I said, "I'd probably shoot him if they tried to jump on me." "You got a gun?" I says, "Yeah, I got a whole lot of guns." "Oh, what do you mean?" I says, "I got a lot of guns." I says, "Come on, I'll show you." "Show me where?" I said, "I live right there. I live right across the street from Mary College." And I took him in the back room and showed him my guns. And he come up, and I had to picture this Gemini missile and B-52 bomber, the B-47, the F-105, the F-102, all those fighters. And I had Martin Luther King over here, et cetera, and other books. My pistols on the top. Went in my closet and bought my big 30-30 Winchester high-powered rifle out of the case, and showed it to him, et cetera. "Wow, you got guns." And I went and got my father's 300 Savage. And I went and got the pump shot guns, and I got the 410 and the 12 gauge, et cetera, boom, 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 boom. And then he bumps into my drum set. I had a rented drum set. I'm a jazz drummer. And so he bumped it. "What is this?" I said, "It's my jazz drum set." I pulled the thing off, clicked on my 360K hi-fi with Jordy one you do sit behind the drums and swung a bit, boom, 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 boom. My point is, Huey was shocked that I had all these trades and skills and architectural stuff because I had a long table in my room. I mean, I was out of the military service, so at this twin bed I have in this room, I'm still making it with hospital corners. So Huey was shocked. Now, you have to remember, Huey is 7 years younger than I am. I have a whole different life cycle of developing Air Force, architecture, building. It's just totally different from Huey. Huey, I find, had no more than did cannery work or something like that at a time, His father had did a loan on the house to do him tuition for that night law school. His brother, Melvin, ahead of him, was doing graduate work already at University of California, Berkeley at the time. So Huey, had a tendency to want to talk about some kind of criminal activity, you know what I mean? But it was crazy, One day he said, "Hey, can you meet me downtown?" I said, "Meet you downtown for what, man?" This is before the party started, way before the party started. And I mentioned downtown, you see that bank over there? I said, "Yeah." If you rob that thing, you probably get $500,000. We got to have a revolution. We have $500,000 for the revolution. I said, "Shoot, what are you talking about, rob a bank?" "Well, that'd be a lot of money." I said, "Shoot, I want to organize political, electoral, community unity so I can take over the whole damn city and manage hundreds of millions of dollars." This is dumb stuff. "No, it ain't. I can get Buddy Boys the air, and they'll do it." I said, "Man, I don't even want to hear that, Huey." I said, "You stupid, man." And I start walking away. "Well, wait a minute. You ain't got the guts." I said, "No, Huey, it's stupid. You don't even know how to you don't even know how to rob a bank. I don't believe." How would you rob it?" I said, "How would you come out of there, Huey? How would you come out?" "I don't know. We'll figure out a way." I said, "No." So I left Huey. And then I didn't see Huey for a month. And then I found out Huey was going up around Herrick Hospital at night. And Huey writes about this in his autobiography. At night, waiting in the bushes in the dark, it may be 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And ultimately, the way he put it, once I got it out of him, they would go in and take somebody in an emergency, and they leave their purses there. He would ransack, take the purse, take jewelry, and any money that's left. And he'd been doing it over and over and over, and I found out about it. I said, "Hugh, what is wrong with you?" "Oh, I could have extra money." I said, "Huey, you in a law school. I don't understand this." Remember, I worked for the Department of Human Resources at the time. I had a good check, and it wasn't no poop butt check. I mean, I had a good check. And I said, "Man," "I'll never work with you. Got to have extra money." Anyway, a couple of weeks later, I'm going over, and I noticed I'd never hired my adult assistant, part-time adult assistant. And I says, "Wow." So I called Huey up. "Huey, come down here." "What?" "Come down here to the War and Poverty office." He comes down there. I says, "Fill this out." "What are you going to?" I says, "You said you need extra money?" He says, "Yeah." I says, "Fill this out. I got you a job." "Oh, you do?" I says, "Yes, Huey." "Boom, fill that stuff out, man. Let's go upstairs." Told him to my supervisor, and I told him, I says, "This is Huey Newton." He has an associate arts degree in sociology. He's in a night law school, private law school in San Francisco. And I want to hire him as this. And I said, "It's 1 year left on this." "Oh, okay, Mr. Seale." I said, "Well, thank you." Boom, boom. "Come now." Says here now, Huey, boom, boom, boom. I says, "Now." He says, "Okay, I got a job." I says, "Yes, you got a job." "Okay, who do I report to?" I said, "You report to me." "What?" I says, "You report to me." I says, "You start talking. You will not go around doing no kind of criminal crap, what have you, et cetera." I says, "You understand that here?" I said, "Now, you got good theories and stuff." I said, "But you got this stuff mixed up, man. I says, you report to me, be here tomorrow night. I'm going to introduce you to the board, whatever, et cetera. So that's what was problem. So I had to mentor Huey away from that. And then when we finally started the party, Huey was trying to say, okay, so you're the chairman, you're the leader. Now I want to be a leader too. I said, well, Huey, you got to prove yourself. What do you mean? I said, you got to prove. I said, what have you done? I said, I organized a tutorial program in Richmond, California for jobs and stuff. I organized the Black History Fact Group and got Dean Olson with a big protest framework. I said to put black history in the curriculum here at Merritt College, et cetera. Now I'm running this program here. I says, for the city government. I says, what have you organized? And then I says, okay, Huey, we're talking about patrolling the police. I says, and we're going to start this organization. I want you to get out here and you do research and make sure you do everything on the laws in connection. And that's how I got Huey going. So I realized Huey didn't really have the organizing skills I had. So my point is, even when we started the party, and when he stated that, when he told the cop, no, California State Supreme Court ruling states that every citizen has a right to stand and observe. When he said that, I said, wow, he put that shit together. I said, damn. He really did it. You know what I mean? He blew that. And boom. So we got back to the house. And, I'm always cooking for my troops. I had cooked food at my house. Big bowl. And so I got him back at the house. And Huey was always eating. And so I said, Huey, now you're an equal leader with me. What do you mean? I said, what you did tonight. I said, you organized something that was very, very, very important. And you did it well, et cetera. Oh, okay. I saw him. I said, yeah. See, so even then, that picture you see Huey sitting in that chair, I took that picture. I put Huey in that chair. I was trying to mentor Huey into being an organizer. I already knew I was an organizer. I didn't organize all kind of stuff. I knew what I was organizing and what the program and everything the party was going to be about in the first place, you see. So this is what I was doing with Huey, except that when he come out of jail 6 years later, he's writing his book, and then he gonna write in his book, and he did it. I'm the founder, and you're the co-founder, Bobby. Screw you, Huey. You and I run this organization together. We shook hands on that. And I don't want to hear this crap. I don't even want to hear that. But that's what he did. So Huey tried to absolutize himself. He dropped the Minister of Defense, run around, started calling himself the Supreme Commander. I come out of jail, I said, Huey, get rid of that title. No, your trials overshadowed my trials. This is what he's coming up with. This is ego. This is pure ego crap. Boom, boom, boom. I says, Huey, we run the organization together. Other than that, I'm out of here. No. He didn't want me to leave. Why didn't Huey want me to leave? All them speaking engagements, Huey couldn't do them. Huey probably never did no more than 10, 11 speaking engagements in his lifetime in terms of mass audience stuff. Never did that. I didn't know it, but while I was in jail, Huey come out of jail, and his first speaking engagement here in Boston somewhere, half the people walked out on him. See, Huey tried to be exact, et cetera, but he didn't have that thing that could spark people. Huey didn't have that. He didn't have things that inspired people. Dr. King and his method is that even Eldridge Cleaver could inspire people. Kathleen Cleaver was a great speaker. She could inspire people, et cetera, et cetera. But Huey didn't have that. Huey had a tendency to, I remember in terms of dialectics, he would stand up. Brothers and sisters, if we could first agree on the dialectical principle that quantitative increase or quantitative decrease causes a qualitative leap or change, I think we can begin to move forward and we can see flux. And I'm over here, oh my God. You can't do that. So you communicate to grassroots people. Well, some of these people are college-bound people too, you know what I mean? But my point is, that's not the way you do it. Me, now, I've been a stage actor, I've been a stand-up comedian, I'm a jazz drummer, I'm a carpenter, I'm a builder, I'm a hunter, structural repair, high-performance actor. I did all of this stuff, okay? I have a whole different way. You see what I mean? So I can take quantitative increase and sound like a preacher. You know what I mean? I say quantitative increase. Increase. I say causes a qualitative leap of change. I say, y'all with me? Yes, sir. See, so you inspire. It's the difference. You say, so they walked out on Huey. And then he found out, come out, going to visit the Chicago chapter, walked in there trying to bark orders. You don't do that, man. I don't organize these people. These brothers and sisters, they would not follow his orders. It's just one thing, he said, but it's what the chairman has already taught us. But I'm just saying, so when he come out of jail, he thinks that he needs another title. The Supreme Commander, I told him he had to get rid of it. And then he finally did publicly get rid of it, call himself the servant, what have you, et cetera, because we're going to run for political office. You know what I mean?
How about Eldridge?
Eldridge was just, Eldridge was like, he understood it. He understood the value of the political program that I was talking about. But when his house got raided, before he went in exile and stuff, you know, when his house got raided, he shifted, and then he fooled around there and took and made a pamphlet. He's the Minister of Information of the Black Panther Party. Catechism, Black Panther Party's Catechism of a Revolutionary. I hadn't even read the darn thing. And one of my big-time donors at the time was none other than the movie actor Marlon Brando. I'm talking about this guy didn't just talk. He spent time with me. He went to my court cases and stuff like that. He was always up in Oakland, etc. And he would just, I said, I need 5,000, and he sent it to me. Well, and one day, Marlon Brando, 6 or 7 months later, called. He says, Bobby, what are you talking about killing your mother and father and stuff in this magazine? I'm not going to give you any more money to do any of this stuff. You can't go around killing you. I says, we don't have no magazine about killing no mothers and father. It's Mikhail, the anarchist, that Eldridge Cleaver has taken word for word and just printed it in a pamphlet. He's Minister of Information. I had walked around with this thing in my briefcase for 3 months and hadn't even read the thing. So me and Marlon Brando broke bread. So that was the problem. And all that offensive kind of stuff. And then I argued with him about Dr. Martin Luther King, which I won the argument, and he finally agreed, you know. And other stuff, he agreed a lot of the stuff. But he went into exile, and we had that embassy status in Algiers, you know, because they gave us a whole villa, 20-room place complete with the walls, and put up the big sign, Black Panther Party International section. That was great that we jumped in on the international stage, because Malcolm had moved to go into the international stage, and now here we were, the Black Panther Party, in that moment. So Eldridge, you know, pushed the idea of revolution and screw it up, etc. at that time. But even when a lot of the stuff got back, I told people don't pay no attention to it. Even though I was in jail, don't. You know, they wanted us. He said the Black Panthers should join the Weatherman in Chicago and bust up business windows and stuff. And I told Fred Hampton, you don't do no such damn thing. You take you guys, they just gonna beat those white kids up. I said, you go down there, they're gonna shoot all of y'all down. I said, you will not do that. You know what I mean? The Weatherman is doing that thing. So I mean, I gave it. So those are the kind of problems, you know. Eldridge came back finally after he went through, you know, after the party was over. And of course, I had my own radio show out in Denver, Colorado at the time, the Bobby Seale talk show, what have you, for a couple of years there. But Eldridge came back, and he said the party should have never existed, et cetera, boom, 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 boom. So we're at odds. And then Kathleen moved to Philadelphia, and she was assistant to Leon Higginbotham.
Right.
at the time, and it was great because to see Kathleen some more at those days and time. And one day she says, Bobby, Eldridge wants you to call him up, you know, 'cause boom. I call him. I said, what's going on with Eldridge? He said, hey, man, I can't get any speaking engagements. He said, let's speak together. I said, Eldridge, now you said a lot of stuff. I'm not going to say that at the speaking engagement. I said, okay, Eldridge, all right. So I called the Speakers Bureau up and told them to book us, and they booked us up with about 10 engagements right then and there. And we went to speak, et cetera, and he talked a lot about how he was still in love with his wife, but she was split from him at the time. But, you know, he, in his own way, you know, wanted to try to do something positive. And he recognized the fact that my program was the correct program, and he deviated from it, et cetera, and so on. But, boom, Huey went totally, in the last days, he went, well, it was more than that. Huey, I didn't find it out till 10 or 12 years ago. Huey was bipolar. Okay. And then I found out that from doctors and people that I talked to, you know, that Huey drank that Remy Martin and smoked that weed and all that kind of stuff, being bipolar and snorting that cocaine and stuff. And he just started doing crazy stuff. I remember Dr. Bert Small called me up one time. I said, put him in the hospital. You know, put the boy in the hospital, you know. And they had to put him in the hospital. He had to dry out from all that stuff. And I remember I talked to his brother, Melvin. I said, Huey's got dual personality. That's what I call it. I didn't know the man was bipolar until just 10 years ago. And he just started doing dumb, crazy stuff. I kicked him out of the mayoral campaign. When I ran for mayor, I told Huey he didn't do the campaign. You know, you can't work on this campaign because you're going to try to scam it. You know, and I took him out of that, and so he did. But he did scam, but he didn't do it the way I thought he was going to do it. What he did is he went to his Hollywood friends and would get them to give him $20, $30, $40, and $50,000 to support Bobby's campaign. Well, then he'd come back, and he'd only give 5 or 10% of that money to the party people who was working the campaign. And that was outside of me, you know, when we ran the mayoral campaign. So that's Huey degenerated. Now, I always give Huey credit for the positive stuff he did, you see, in that history. You see what I mean? But those last days, boom. Yeah. When I resigned from the Black Panther Party, they wound up with 50 people only. There were no chapters, no branches, all across the country. You know, I walked away from it. And of the 200 people there, when I walked away in 2 weeks, most of them had left. They had 50 people. That's all. They had a learning center, one institution, etc. But that was that.
Okay, thank you.
Most of those other positive party members across country, I mean, Herman Smith ran the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Barbara Lee became a congressman, et cetera. Larry Little became what have you, and lawyers and stuff. I have party members and old white left radical friends and brothers and people who just became human successes in one way, shape, fashion, form, or another. All this stuff about the Black Panther Party is dead and in jail, that's not true. You know what I mean? But anyway.
And I think we have some book signing to do.
Yeah, unfortunately we're out of time, but Mr. Seale's going to sign his book, so you can buy his book and ask your question at the same time.
Oh, thank you.
Let's give it up for Bobby Seale and Jim Sedanius. Thank you.